Look what I have behind me.
Okay, do me a favor. Tell me about that particular painting.
So I did that when I already moved here, and I was using a picture of a model, and initially I started a small piece, but I couldn't connect. And then I grabbed a much bigger canvas after a while. And you know, Joe, I never think when I paint, never. So I remember I felt strongly connected to the red color, and maybe it was because when I moved here, I was like in this masculine energy, you know, fiery masculine energy. So I used a lot of red color then. And I was in a trance. As I said, I don't think so. I didn't make any conscious decisions. I didn't even understand at some point why I started painting the halos around heads. I didn't understand those decisions, those aesthetic kind of choices. They come in an unconscious way, like someone is deciding for me. So I did the halo with her, and then I start applying tapes, and I didn't understand why either, because I just wanted to make almost like this pop artistic effect of, you know, like rays around her, like red rays. And then the title came. The titles came when the painting is finished, and the titles just come. And I just titled it "Expect the Unexpected," or the unexpected. Expect the unexpected. And I remember looking, because you know, she's almost like looking in front of her, and she's like she cannot believe what she sees. She cannot believe what's happening, but she's almost like in awe, like.
Now, which painting are you referring to now? Because you mentioned it's a she. Is that a female? That's really funny, because I got the vibe of a male because I didn't see the entire image.
Yeah, that's a female. Let me explain you the horns, because I remember when you sent me the email. See, when I was creating my first collection, when I literally was just starting as a full-time artist years ago, I created a collection of maybe 12 paintings called Rebel Women collection. And I remember working on one of the biggest pieces, and it was quite bold, as most of them, but there was something missing for me. I mean, I remember sitting in my garden shed, because I was creating in my garden shed, and I couldn't just tap in what is missing in this painting. And then suddenly those horns appeared, not as a symbol of devil.
Are you referring to the chosen one?
No, I'm referring to horns overall.
Oh, okay.
Because there's a lot of horns in my paintings.
Okay.
And I decided to just paint like a quick sketch, like a quick drawing of horns, and that's when this collection kind of made sense for me, because I knew that, for example, when a bull grows his own horns, that's when he's able to stand up for himself. That's when he matures and he's able to protect himself. And that was all about the rebel women, you know, they were ready to stand up for themselves and just, you know, be strong. So there's nothing to do with the devil, just to clarify.
I wanted to have a very specific discussion with you about that, because I'm going to look for and display that image. So we can have a kind of a clarifying conversation about that.
And you know, when I was talking to God the other day, because, Joe, I mean, I put so much energy into working on the finances. Today, it crashed me to the ground again. I mean, and even somewhere in between, I spoke to my mom, and she was implementing the old program, and, you know, talking about, you know, bad financial situations. I was like, I can't stand it. So I really said, this is it. I really need to remove this old program from my head. This is just an illusion. This is just an illusion created by the brain for the purpose of the experience. And then I was talking to God, and he said, you know, just use different frequencies and music. That's how you've been creating the painting. Put the music on and start creating the painting in your mind, and then implement the emotions you want to feel, and that's how you will manifest the opposite programming. I was like, thanks God. So glad they send you a song. They will be sending more.
It is so beautiful. I'd love to share it with you, by the way. I won't here, but it's not something I can share publicly because I licensed it for my own business use. And I don't know how I'm going to use it because it really does have some religious overtones. And that's not something that I would typically incorporate into my music, but there are aspects of it that I know I will. And I don't know to what degree today, but it just has so much beauty in it.
I was listening to Brenda's blog, and there was a song at the end, so beautiful as well. There is always a message in everything. So when something pops up, I learn to listen.
I'm learning that from you. It's something that has been, you could say, wisdom from generations past, and perhaps something that many of us have lost, including myself, to pay attention to the small things, because that's one of the big takeaways for me from our discussion together. It was a great reminder. And
remember the Spanish thing that I sent you that they told me in my ear, the Spanish translation? Yes. Congratulate on contract. It was actually a different translation because I sent it to my friend and she said it's a wrong translation. The Google translated in the wrong way. What actually it means is find happiness. Everything I will share with you, I will share from my own experience. It won't be anything I read in a book. It won't be anything I heard from someone. It will be honestly only my own experience with them, with God, with Jesus, and the creative process. They also gave me a new task, which I will happily share maybe during the video, because I start asking them, right, so you told me now I can bring the picture, the painting into the picture. I took a short, separation time from my paintings when they stopped selling, and I've been frustrated, and they've been pushing me into the spiritual path, which then they explained that was needed for me, to enter this spiritual path for the past 3 years. But yesterday and today, they've been giving me hints how I can actually serve people with my paintings, which was very interesting, and I will happily share it later as well.
You sent me an image of the Chosen One, and I wanted to include all the images that you sent me in the film that we made. However, that was one that I left out on purpose, and I wrote you, and I said something along the lines of, this image depicts things that oftentimes people will relate to something negative. And I don't think it would be wise for us to include it now, because if they see it and it triggers them into some thoughts, they might not absorb what is in the rest of the film. And I'm really happy that I didn't. I've never made an editorial decision like that before, but I felt this was important to do that. So first of all, let me ask you about what you said earlier relating to horns. What is the significance of them, if you don't mind revisiting, and also why the difference in colors?
Yeah, I'm very happy you touched on this subject, because there's actually a lot of symbols in my paintings, and one of them that appeared quite a few times are the horns. And believe me or not, I will say it again, whenever I start a creative process, I never think. And the symbols like horns or halos or anything else, or some codes, they're coming from the unconscious mind or from somewhere else. And I just do that. I never think, I never stop for a second to make a decision whether it's right or wrong. And horns were actually, I've been called the artist, the artist that paints horns. Why? Because the first collection I created maybe 6 years ago when I became a full-time artist. It was a collection of 12 paintings called Rebel Women Collection. And that was a very important stage in my life where after 10 years of not painting at all, I lost my office job and I was pushed by the universe. Now you go and create in your garden shed. And I did that. I created this collection, and it was almost like a feeling of a rebel woman was growing within me. And that's why I called this collection Rebel Women Collection, because essentially each and every one of them was mimicking me, was a mirror of me. But I remember sitting in my garden shed, and I was creating there because I didn't have any other space. And I remember sitting and just watching all those women, and I just felt there was something lacking. But again, I wasn't really analyzing anything, whether I should add more color or whatever. It was an instant thing that suddenly I just took a brush. I remember just taking some black acrylic paint, and I just drew those horns on those women's heads. And bear in mind, that was a very brave decision, because I spent loads of time creating those 12 portraits, and just imagine all of them finished in oil, months of creations, and suddenly I just take a black acrylic color and just paint those horns, right? Normally I would just, be fearing that you are destroying a painting. But I remember when I painted those first horns, and the thought came to my head, yes, when a bull grows horns, that's when he's able to stand up for himself. When an animal grows horns in general, that's when he's able to stand up for himself. That's when he's able to protect himself. That's when he's able to start this revolution in his life from a child to kind of a mature version of himself. And that's how I felt. I don't really want to go into many details from my personal life, but yeah, I was in a quite dark place yet. And paintings gave me that outlet to release those emotions. And I guess the horse just became a symbol of strength to a point that when later I had my exhibition, solo shows, people were wearing like headpieces that would kind of look like horns, just to mark that they came to my exhibition and they feel rebellious too, and they felt inspired. I had clients who asked me who've been commissioning portraits of themselves with horns just because they want to empower themselves. And yes, I did have situations when I've been confronted with, I remember specifically one lady sent me a very long message accusing me of, implementing some devilish practices into my paintings. But you know what? It was never even close to my heart. It would never even cross my mind to implement something like that, such a negative energy into my paintings, regardless of how aware I was of what I was actually doing. That would never even cross my mind. So yes, you will see a lot of horns in my paintings, but this is only a symbol of strength. Then very, very suddenly halos appeared in my paintings. I didn't understand why, but again, there was no thinking involved. Whenever I would start to think, I would kill the painting. That was it. I can explain to you step by step how it looked like. The first step was always a song given, I now know, by some higher energy forces, God, guides. And the song could be given to me in various forms, through a friend, in a supermarket. Suddenly something pop up like a YouTube notification from someone that I'm not even subscribed with. And those were always the songs that when you hear the song, your whole body goes like, electricity. And I knew this is the song. But most of the time I didn't understand, that I was actually creating my future through the lyrics and the music. And when they've been explaining to me what was happening, so I was getting the song, I was getting the vibration, I was getting the emotion that was going throughout my whole body. I would pick a model that would resonate with me, because I have like a folder with models on my iPad, and then I would just jump in. And I would usually listen the same song over and over again, until all the emotions were gone into the canvas, and I would just sit, relax, and I paint usually very fast. It's a very fast process. You don't think, you just apply. I can't even describe it, properly, maybe in English, but you just don't think, you just apply, you just go with this feeling. And it's almost like orgasmic feeling in a way, because you are just this powerful creator, and in front of you just see this new being being formed. And most of the times when I start those creations, I start from the eyes, and I would always say, I'm starting from the eyes because then I feel like someone is looking at me and I don't feel so alone in my studio, right? But they showed me, Dominika, what you are looking at is actually looking. You create a complete new vibration, a completely new emotion, being a hologram that then start to exist in your own reality. So that was always a mixture, song, emotions, model, and creation. And bear in mind that, I mean, there's so many teachers that will try to explain to you how the law of attraction works or how we should create our realities. And they've been pointing out, because you were never thinking and you were just allowing, you know, the lyrics has an energy too, right? Lyrics are like a ceiling. If you say something out loud, it has its own energy and vibration already. So lyrics were important. And they said, when you just create this vision, let's say instead of a painting, you create a new vision of your future, and you don't think, you just go with this excitement and this happiness, you know, that runs throughout your whole body. And then you just leave it and trust the divine that this is what's going to happen without asking when, how quick. That's when the creation starts. Because every question starting with how, when, or how exactly it's going to end up creates the doubt. The mind starts doubting, you know, and that's what ruins the whole manifestation, the creation of reality. That's what they've been teaching me, even like I told you, Joe, yesterday, when I start panicking about finances after this whole lockdown and everything. I was just literally talking to God, and I said, God, you know, how can I remove this old program? It doesn't serve me anymore. I know I can create this and that. And he just told me, you know, just take a song that will create those emotions and feelings within you. He even said, if you want, you can move your body, because that's when you create more energy within your body. You know, there's this whole movement going on. And then you just create it in your mind, create this painting now in your mind instead of the canvas, and then just trust the divine and just put it out there. But you need to trust 100%. So far, I managed to manifest one specific thing within 24 hours by just doing so, but I'm still practicing myself, because I said I need to really get good at it before I start teaching people, you know. So with the paintings, it was easy because I just left them on the wall and I never thought about it. I always knew when the time comes, it will manifest. But now I feel like maybe more responsibility or something. So I just thought I really need to master this.
So there's this balance between, like you said, when the time comes, it will manifest. And then there is the actual process of you consciously engaging your manifestation capability in order to bring it to be. Mm-hmm. So how are you finding that balance working for you?
It's hard. No. Mm-hmm. But that's why I believe they stepped in. The guides are always around us. They always are around us, and they are just waiting for us. I mean, they always want to help, and they're just waiting for us to ask for this help. They always want to support us in the best possible way. They're full of love, full of wisdom as well, and they have a very good sense of humor sometimes. But I believe that, and I could hear those messages, you know, longer than those 2 months ago, but I was never taking that seriously. And then the seriousness starts coming forward. Seriousness. And then, as I said in a video, I've been offered by the life, or I don't know, by God, this window of 4 weeks when my son was going away. And I just knew, this is it. That's going to be a massive shift in my life. And that's when they very strongly stepped in with all the support they could give me. And they start teaching me day by day, literally like almost the line was open like constantly during the day, about not asking how quick, about feeling worthless, about trusting 100%, trusting them, trusting myself, my inner feeling, trusting God. They've been teaching me a lot about from on one side to kind of control your emotions and, you know, actions and things like that, but on the other side to let go of the control when it comes to creation and finding the right time for the things to happen in your life. Because even, for example, your higher self, this part of you that is already this part of, you know, the higher self, which is already the unconditional love, the God creator force, she is like, you know, the person, or if you take like a big boat, you have this person that sits on the sticks upstairs, and she sees everything from a different perspective, from a different point of view. And they've been saying, you know, trust the divine, trust this higher energy, this higher force, this unconditional, because they know better, and let go of this control. So that's when I learned to let go. It's not easy. It's not easy. I did try to manipulate one painting last year when I was already clearly aware that, okay, I'm manifesting my future through the painting. So I thought, okay, so now I'm going to manifest a perfect relationship.
Beautiful.
And what happened? They stopped me in the middle. They literally stopped my hand. I couldn't continue with the painting. The brush didn't work, the iPad would switch off, and I understood that I wanted to control it. I wanted to create something that wasn't the right time. And obviously, a year ago, I don't even know who I was a year ago. The past 2 months, the very tough but very needed learning about the self-love, wow. Now I finally start seeing myself. I think for most of my life I was invisible to myself, you know. It's an ongoing process. It's not something that will, I believe, ever end, because you just need to work on it every day. But yeah, they were so right to stop me in that moment of time, because if I would attract any relationship a year ago when I was where I was, invisible, I would create something fake, probably something completely not right for myself or my son, and they just stopped me. They just literally just stopped me.
Allison asks, how do you trust that it's the guides talking to you and not yourself, babbling to yourself?
Yeah, well, initially I thought that it was myself, that I was making that up. But then I'm natural blonde, believe it or not, and I wouldn't be able to come up with such a wise teachings myself. And the other thing is that you just feel, you just know. And the more teachings they give you, honestly, it's like universal knowledge. Something that during the daily, you know, during the daily life, you just wouldn't really think about something like that. And I hear them, and someone told me just ask who they are. And I remember for the first time when I heard, you know, Council of Nine, my reaction was, whoa. No way. I thought Council of Nine is working with Marina Jacobi only, you know, and no. And I was explaining to Joe that, you know, once you do several channelings and you go with that, you learn to kind of feel the difference in vibration. And Council of Nine, and now it's the word, Joe, that I always have a problem with. They sound how?
Authoritarian.
Yes, that's how they feel. The energy is very, like, you can feel that, like, serious, very serious.
Oh, I get that. Okay.
Very serious. Then I start to recognize my higher self, who very beautifully reminded me today that I became so connected with everyone, but not with her. And it's time to us, you know, to reconnect. So I had a beautiful conversation with my higher self today. I do that through the teachings of Dolores Cannon as well. I think I'm going to soon master how to regress myself, to be honest, because I start practicing that a lot. Definitely the most amazing and profound, I mean, all of them are amazing, don't get me wrong, but the most profound feeling was when I had Jesus Christ. I was channeling him through me, through my throat, through my voice, and his energy is like nothing I ever experienced before. It's so light, it's so delicate, it's so loving and so soft, and almost like a like this silk material. I don't know. It's completely different vibration, like nothing else I ever felt before. And it's almost like you are floating. It's so like, it's hard to describe, but his vibration is so different. So different.
I have a question real quick.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
When you say that that you channeled the divine, you've already mentioned 3 different types of entities, as I refer to them. Which of them is representing the divine?
Divine is a separate thing, I believe, for me.
Are you saying that, because I equate it to be, you could say, something of the purest, highest? Yeah? And are you then equating that? I hear you saying that it's something different than what you've already described so far. And the way you described Jesus feels to me like something, just the sweetest, purest kind of energy that you might experience. And yet you're describing divine as something still beyond that.
I mean, we all are one, but I guess it all depends on your personal views. It all depends what you actually believe in. And when I say divine, I mean God, right? The God, the initial artist, the main artist that created it all, and we are all one part of it. Like the extraterrestrials, Jesus, all ascended masters, because I believe in ascended masters. I'm not religious at all. But when it comes to the divine, the God creator, it's the conversations with him are, again, yet a little bit different. A little bit different. They are different.
In what respect?
He's very direct, but not like cancel. He's full of love. Different than Jesus, though. Very friendly, I would say. It's hard to say, but...
And how do you know it is God?
Because I address it. God, can I talk to you? Can I speak to you, God?
I see. Now I understand. Okay.
And he's the answers from God comes like a rocket. Very, very short, you know, like, for example, when I was in my kitchen and I was organizing my son's birthday party, and that was the time when they've been talking to me a lot about the relocation. And my son's dad, he lives in the same town as I am, and we have literally 10 minutes distance from each other. And I started thinking about this relocation, and I said, God, do you know what? To be honest, I mean, I feel that this is coming, but I feel stressed because I really work hard to have a proper, really healthy relationship with my son's dad. But I'm scared that if I will tell him that we will be relocating, that he will maybe think that I'm trying to take his child away from him. And the only answer that came like rocket was, don't worry about that. It will sort itself out. And that was it. And instead of asking God by how, but when, I left it. I trusted. The next day, my ex-husband came to my son's birthday party, and the first thing he told me was he needs to talk to me. We went to the kitchen, and he said he's relocating. He's leaving the United Kingdom. And literally I was standing in front of him, and that was him standing in front of me. But to me, it was almost like his soul was giving me the green light so I can now move on, and I'm no longer attached to this place here. That's how it felt. And I just said, thank you, God. And I had many situations like that. Like I told you a few days ago, I really wanted to wake up at 4 or 5 a.m. to meditate, but eventually I woke up 5:30 and I went to my studio and I sit and I said, God, I need to talk to you. See, because I have this Facebook page that where I wanted to create this quantum business, and I don't really feel it should be called Quantum Queendom anymore because it kind of separates women from men. And I feel like I would, you know, with all the changes that happened, I really would like to support females and males in whatever way you want me to support them. And I said, God, how should I call it? And then an image of the image that you put at the end of the part 2, Unexpected Story. just came up right in front of my eyes, the black and white one, saying powerful creators. And I said, God, do you want me to call it powerful creators you are? And believe it or not, right, because I experienced so many miracles, we all are, in front of my windows, 6:30 in the morning, fireworks starts on. There's no people around, but the fireworks is just, you know, flying into the sky. And it was maybe half of a minute. It wasn't like one bulb. It was just fireworks. And I thought, just thank you, God, you know, for showing me in such a magnificent way that this is the name I shall be using for my, you know, for my Facebook, you know, page or whatever.
Right.
So, sorry, it sounds maybe crazy, but that's how my life's been for the past few months, you know.
I think just to relate this from personal experience, what you're doing is the complete opposite of what I've been doing probably for my whole life, because there have been people who talked about signs. Oh, this is a sign, that's a sign. Oh, this means that. But they always seemed a little weird to me and a little too invested in what they were saying. And I just didn't relate to it. Of course, naturally, that was a judgment on my part, clearly. But my point is that there is a simple means of communication that you're engaging in that is resulting in an incredible experience for you. Not only that, but also validation, verification, in ways that even still you see as a sign, but recognize it as something that was meant for you, that was meant to underscore what is happening in your life. This is really huge, because so much of what we practice, we expect to create as powerful creators that we see ourselves as, or would like to, and discount the communication that comes in the various ways that it does from beyond.
I totally agree. And you know what? I had a conversation with Black Panther, with Dominik yesterday, and bless him, because I honestly can share with him everything. He manifested in my life at the right time, because I really need people around me now who are not judgmental and support me. And he's one of those people. And I said to him, so I'm almost 40, and obviously I've been exposed to those false programming for many, many years. And I come from Poland, from communist country as well, you know, from Catholic family. And I had shitloads of lies implemented into my brain, into my conscious mind and unconscious mind. But see, the past 2 months, when they so intensely came into my life, eventually I'm at that point. And I said that to Dominik yesterday. Dominik, do you know what? I feel actually that this realm that I'm communicating with, all those beings, it's much more real than this life that we perceive through our life here on earth. And that's what they've been actually telling me, to help me to finally 100% accept that, yes, I can communicate with them at any point, anytime. I can ask for anything, because the doubt, the self-worth was still sometimes kicking in. Well, believe it or not, it's really difficult to get rid of this programming, and we all suffer some issues with self-esteem, with the worthiness. We all are, in a way. And that's so hard to get rid of. The self-love is, for some reason, so difficult to achieve. And they've been just telling me, Tom, this realm is even more real than the world you perceive through your own physical eyes. And I'm so glad we could have this conversation yesterday with Dominik, because as I said, I'm finally implementing this new program that starts to kick in, it starts to work. So it's great. So it's cool. And yes, and that's why maybe I had to forget in a way about God, as I said in this video. And what I wanted to mention, 4 or 5 years ago, I painted a painting that I called Sorry for Having Offended Thee. And I remember when I painted that, why on earth would I offend God? And look what happened with my life. I completely forgot about God. And maybe I had to forget about him. So then it hit me so hard when I eventually was reminded. And actually I was reminded during QHHT session, when I was performing a QHHT session on my client, and my client's higher self reminded me about God. She literally said, and Dom, when she was performing the body scan, and Dom, yes, you all are powerful creators, but don't forget about the one who created it all. And that literally just put me into my seat. I managed to finish the session, and I just burst into tears, and I thought, how could I forget about the main artist? But maybe I had to do it. So now it came back, you know, and I will never let him go, you know. And it's such a beautiful part of every day, because every day is such a miracle. I mean, we can have different experiences, negative, good, you know, extraordinary experiences. They say we create it all, right? We create those experiences. But if you invite this divine element, when you see beyond and you see how miracle this life is, even though it's just an illusion that you create through the perception of your eyes, it's so much more beautiful. And he is so real. They all are so real. And it's so easy to connect with them, and they only just waiting for it. But oh, we just got so disconnected. So disconnected.
Dom, you made reference to God as a he, and someone, I think it was Nikki asks, he? So maybe
a she, maybe a she. I don't think God, obviously God is energy, right? It's the force, creative force. It's not a person. I don't think he would feel offended whether we call him he or she. From what I know, I mean, we created the name God. He probably doesn't have a name at all. Maybe, you know, you can call him however you want. Mm-hmm. And I think it's a very personal, just, you know, how you call it, how you approach it. It's nothing. We need to remember that mainly this is just the pure energy of love, unconditional love. That's what it is. You know, I don't see God as an older man with a white beard sitting on a cloud, shooting, you know, his arrows, you know, at us or anything like that. I just feel him as a overwhelming, just really strong, unconditional love. A very powerful creator. Yeah. Artist. I like to call him artist now. Hey,
ultimately, yeah, we do have different opinions about what God is, and some of it comes from our conditioning, some of it comes from what we peeled away from our conditioning, and whatever we're left with, like you say, male, female, or gender neutral as an energy, if you will. What I heard you say was, whatever works for you, whatever's valid for you, accept that and be okay with perhaps how other people may see God.
I'm okay with that. There is no such thing as one truth. There is only perception of truth. That's the first thing. And they told me, Dominika, what you believe in exists. So however you want to build this magical realm that does exist, however you want to communicate with them, however you want to call them, it's your personal journey with them. Just know that they are there, and they're just full of love, full of support, and they are so real. And it's so amazing to finally be able to open up and trust. And that's when those miracles starts happening. Literally, I had one day when I start writing everything down, because I literally had one day when I had 12 miracles, one after another, when a day before or 2 days before, when I was fighting with my old self, like, I don't trust, it's just a voice, this is just a voice. And I was walking, and I see, you will be showered with miracles. And literally 1 day or 2 days later, I had like 12 miracles in one day that I wrote down, because I just couldn't believe. I was just shaking. I was like, how is that even possible? And they said, we told you so. We told you so.
So these miracles happened. Do you find that how you were living your life prior to the miracles happening led to them happening, or did they happen despite whatever it was, the way that you were living your life?
They happen despite, and in most unexpected ways. You can't predict it. You can't really predict it, and that's what's beautiful, because again, this is when you leave the control to them, not the control, but you just let them act, and how nice is that, just to be surprised, in the middle of washing up or something like that with some miracle, because here we have this earthly life, our responsibilities and things we need to do, and there's this whole another world realm, happening next to us, and suddenly the veil just becomes thinner, comes down, and you are like connected to it all, and those miracles are just happening, and it's almost like to me, it felt like a celebration. Finally, Dom, you got it, finally you are connecting, finally you start to believe in, and it's this is the beyond, I believe, I was always looking for. I remember spending long hours lying in my bed, my little bed, when I was a child, and that was 80s. Oh my God, how these questions came to my head, my little mind, at the age of 7 or something like that, when I could spend countless hours thinking, what is behind the stars? And I just couldn't expand my mind enough to understand what there is, because I always knew there is something. I was trying to figure out how big the sky is. I was measuring that in my head. I was trying to figure out where God lives, where Jesus lives, where Mary lives, and I was just trying to find those answers and everything. And I believe that eventually, after 40 years, I found them, and I'm so grateful.
I think one of the things that I heard there that was a key for me was, you don't have to be anyone or do anything special in order to connect.
You are already special. You are already special. And that was one of the things that they taught me, because I would always, they told me, you are, how did they say that? You are used to the difficult. You always think that everything will be difficult, where everything will be so simple. And they told me, you always push yourself too far, and you always think you are lacking something, where actually in the now, in this moment, you are already perfect. You don't need anything else. The way you are in the now, this is the right version of you at the right time, and you don't need to be anyone else or do anything special. You are the way you are, and that's how you're supposed to be at this present time. And that was so hard for me to understand, because I was like, no, because I need to be better at this, or I need to do this, or I need to pray maybe for 5 hours a day, I don't know, No, they said, no, cut it out, Dom. It's so simple. And they told me the greatest things are the most simple one, they say. And by this constant chase after being somebody else, someone better, thinner, more educated, more enlightened, we are losing the opportunity to live in a now and appreciate the life in a now, the small details, the holy grails, It's important to be in a now and just trust the divine, the God, or however you call it, that things will fall into place at the right time. We don't need to rush. Remember, Joe, when we spoke, rush. I was always rushing.
Yeah, I'm sure it was just only you on the planet Earth rushing. Nobody else.
That's why I'm sharing, so everyone can just stop for a wee bit. Yes, faith and trust. These are fundamental, actually, when you want to create your own reality as well. This 100% trust that everything will unfold at the right time, in the right way, and faith that it will actually happen. And it needs to be based on, as I always say, 100% faith.
I just wondered about your experience of that when you shared it with me. Was it something you were doubting on whether or not you should or should not, because you might be concerned about whether I would have serious doubts and would think you were crazy?
I remember that I felt like that before we actually met. Because even though since I first saw you during Marina's webinars, it was clear to me that you have amazing, energy. And I said to Joe that if God had a voice, he would have a voice of Joe Pena. And when they initially told me, to contact you, I think it took them maybe around 1 hour to convince me. As you know, I sent you some silly message prior because I didn't want to send a message that they want me to send, but eventually I did, because the voice was just repeating itself like an old record, So I said, okay, I'm gonna do it. But I'm gonna say exactly what you said, and I'm gonna say that you said it.
You didn't want to take responsibility for it.
Yes, but I still remember that before we met, because I never ever said the full story like at one go to one person, I felt a little bit scared. But then you kind of dissolved it very quickly. And I knew that I can speak about Council of Nine because you were so familiar with them. And I said to Joe today before we start this webinar that someone asked me, how did you actually feel when you've been actually talking to Joe and, saying this whole story? And I said, actually, I have an amnesia. And until Joe sent me, the YouTube links where I could actually see myself and hear myself, what I was saying, I had almost no recollection of what I knew what I said, but I didn't have, it was almost, because it was so intense, so important for me, so amazing that I'm finally saying this. I think I was like a child, so excited. I don't know, it felt like amnesia, I didn't remember the exact emotions that were, actually within me. I just remember being so happy that someone is listening to me, and that it wasn't actually that hard, although at parts it was so emotional, because those were information and things that happened to me that I've been holding just for myself, And Joe created this space of pure trust. And I remember when he said to me, how would you feel if we use this consultation call to actually make those videos? And I was like, oh, what? I was like, again, maybe it's not perfect, maybe this, maybe we should do something else once more. And Joe went with his gut instinct, and I'm so happy he did. And they told me, Joe will know what to do. He will know how to dress it and address it. And I'm so happy he did, because he made the best decision. And I listen, and I'm still at that moment when I'm just ready to close my eyes and go, and I don't know where it's going to take us, but I stop asking. I stop asking where it's going to take me. I know I find a lot of agreement within myself to do whatever they want me to do, as long as I can, serve others and help others. How? When I stopped asking. Honestly, I stopped asking. And I can just say that I'm so grateful. And as I said, I wasn't even expecting we're going to have like a live webinar today.
It would have been a shame to try and redo it to make it look really polished. And so she could, she could be all dressed up and present it in a nice professional way. I don't think that was the intention at all. My opinion was that the intention was to share the authenticity of it, which is why it came out the way it did. I'm really glad you didn't ask me not to. It was so important to be able to show your story unfold the way we did.
Yeah, I think, it was, I can't even find the words, but it was so big for me. And yet again, I was still in that mode, maybe we should make it perfect. And I was still thinking, why would anyone like what I just said, or, even be interested? To me, important part was that I said it out loud, that it went out. But again, I'm so glad that they told me, listen, don't Joe will know what to do. And I'm so glad because you did the most amazing thing, because apart from making a great 2 videos, you also made a massive favor to me. You made me confront me. I was watching myself and I was listening to myself, and I finally heard myself saying this out loud, because I had this amnesia, you know. So that to me was again yet profound feeling when I had to look at myself and hear myself saying it. So you made me a big favor in terms of, you know, becoming visible to myself. Hearing myself, that was amazing. Almost like therapeutic, you know, experience.
And I feel too that perhaps it might have also been for some of the people who have watched it so far, and perhaps those to come.
Yes, because there is so many more of us, you know. The response was amazing, and I've been reading the comments on YouTube, and I've been reading the comments on Facebook, and some people contacted me privately as well, and there's so many of us holding those stories back, this magic back, because we are scared that no one will believe us or label us with the craziness or whatever. But this craziness, this is absolutely beautiful part of our lives, you know. This is the magic, and we should never ever create any limitations because someone may say something. Yeah, one of the things they've been teaching me as well is the limitations, how easy it is to create limitations in your head, in your mind, and how destructive it is for our true self to shine outside for others. And we should always shine for others, and we should encourage each other, because this is the only way forward, you know, to create this positive disease of light, almost like a positive, very contagious disease of light. And only by becoming truthful and sharing our truth with others, we can become brighter and brighter, and we can become the truth, the essential truth about the human being, about our souls, you know, which is not that we are only a human being, a piece of body, piece of meat walking on the round shaped globe. No, there's so much more to us, you know. We are magic. We are the part of the divine that exploded himself, right, and created those, you know, millions, trillions, billions of mirrors of himself to have experience. From I am, he became what I can become, and that's who we are. That's what he can become.
Beautiful.
So I believe this channel you created, Joe, Enlighten Me with Joe. Whoever has anything to share, contact Joe. He will give you the most amazing, beautiful space to share your truth, to share your experiences. And I will never forget, Joe, what you have done for me. Never. This is a turning point. I feel it's a turning point for me.
You lit up after our call together. The second call we had, you were so animated and lit up, which was completely a different energy than how I experienced you the first time. There was so much happiness. It's almost like a huge weight was lifted off of you.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
it was a beautiful thing to see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was like a rocket.
And now what I'm seeing is another version of you. Although I recognize that it was probably there all along, and you've expressed that in many ways. My point is that what I'm experiencing you as is someone who's communicating in a way that is empowering, truthful, to not only to you, but speaking truths that other people can embrace as well, especially as they reflect upon their way of looking at them.
Yeah, I'm happy that you said it, and thank you for that, Joe. Listen, I don't have any expectation where it's gonna go, what it's gonna do, but what I know is that it's important to share the truth, and I just feel such a profound feeling within me. And after those great teachings they gave me, this waking up, you know, they would literally like, wake up, Dom, wake up. But we all need to wake up, you know, to our true self, to let go of those limitations, to let go of the past, of the victim modes, understand the experiences that we went through, that we will still be going through, that they are happening for us, not to us. It's time to let go of the victim mode. It's time to kind of be wiser and look from a wider perspective and grow from every experience. And yes, I do realize that some of the experiences we have may be horrendous, and I may sound to some even that I'm cruel or something, but believe me or not, from every single experience there's a way that your soul can grow. Every single experience, your parents, your family, your friends that you have met, that crossed your path, you have chosen them because you knew as a soul that you need this kind of experience to grow from. It's not happening to you, it's happening for you. The soul path is always towards ascension, always. And I do understand how difficult it is to let go of past, especially, as I said, if you have very tense and dense emotions attached to yourself, memories, and sometimes it's hard as shit, but it's doable. It really is doable. Through the love, through understanding, through acceptance, especially when you understand how your soul can grow from certain experiences. And this is honestly, look what's happening on Earth. The Earth decided to shift and she doesn't look back anymore, right? And that's why I believe so many of us is actually experiencing those past traumas coming to the surface of the water, because this is the time of our ascension too. And we really need to let go of this past, of those experiences, in order for us to shift as well. So it's time to wake up and, as I said, just look at everything from a much broader perspective, from a deeper perspective as well. And let those beautiful guides, invite them in. Let them guide you through this process. Let them be there with you. They always are anyway. It's so important because they can guide you in such a beautiful and wise way. And sometimes we have this tendency to overthink, from tiny problem to make such a huge drama. We put into one thing that happened to us so much negative energy, and even things that are not real. We are exaggerating. We are creating those monstruous, things that are not real. And they always say, Thomas, it's so easy, you overthink. Stop overthinking. You are adding too much. It's actually much simpler. Look at this from this perspective. And they've been just showing me everything, and that was so helpful. And they can do that for everyone, and yes. And they are so wise. They always have very, very wise responses, very simple. And it just shows as human beings how we honestly make things so much more difficult and exaggerating. Often we do.
So I see many, many speaking opportunities for you coming up.
I don't know, but my higher self told me at one of the sessions that I had a chance to experience, but it wasn't QHHT, it was Beyond Quantum Healing. Mm-hmm. And it was a year ago. And that was when I asked about my the business that I wanted to start. And my higher self literally went, mm-hmm. She thinks she knows what she's doing, but she has no idea what she will be doing in the future. She literally went like, She said she will be talking to people. She will be causing a reaction. She didn't explain in much details because it wasn't the right time for me to hear. At that time, I was just focused on art therapy classes and things like that, because I literally didn't know how help people in other way than art therapy. But yeah, that was quite funny. I was actually listening to that today, because every time I re-listen those sessions, I find new information. It's like layer after layer. But my biggest dream is to be regressed by Susan Spooner, because she's got the most amazing sessions.
I think I have a session with her coming up in October. And
you do?
Oh yeah, didn't I tell you?
You didn't, but I think I told you should have.
Mm-hmm. And I think you may be aware of this also, but I've been highly resistant to having anyone tell me what is true for me, that I insist that whatever that truth is needs to come from within. And which is kind of ironic because I've been listening to channelers for years. You know, it doesn't even make sense. Anyway, I don't want to get overly invested in it. And I'm doing my best to just continue to do the practices that were offered to me and to use those practices as a way to connect between now and then, as opposed to waiting until that time and nothing happens, but instead engage every day with practices that I know that are beneficial for me, that I know are moving me toward my own personal progression to wherever it is that I'm heading, which ties into your discussions about faith and trust.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's beautiful. So, I mean, I'm so happy for you gonna meet Susan. She's such an amazing woman. And oh my God, she was working with Dolores. Actually, she was her assistant. So I feel so not jealous in a good way, you know, because you know how much Dolores means to me. Susan is amazing, and you have the best. I mean, not saying the best, but she's so good. She always has such a profound sessions, and you know, with you being such an old soul, I'm pretty sure you're gonna have a profound session too. You know, so I'm happy for you. I'm really happy for you. Maybe when I visit US, I will jump to Iowa and ask Susan for a session too.
Hi. So have you only been painting for about 6 years? Is that what I heard you say?
No, I had a 10-year break. So I was 14 when I went to High School of Art, and I've been there for 5 years. But during those 5 years, I've been told not to paint because they said my paintings were more about poetry than actual talent. So I was listening to my tutors. And then when I went to Academy of Fine Arts, because I thought I can't paint, I decided to actually choose more like a journalistic faculty, which was critique and promotion of art. But what happened at the first year, I broke my ankle very badly, and I needed an operation. They put a lot of metal pieces into my leg to put everything together, and I couldn't walk. Well, I don't know, 4 months. I couldn't walk for 4 months, and I was stuck with my parents at my parental home. And the only thing that I could do was to paint. And because I was having a lot of emotions going within me at that time, my boyfriend was killed in a car crash before that, and then this accident. I found this outlet for those difficult emotions. And that's how I actually created the first collection that I never thought I will show anyone. But when I was able to walk and I was able to go back to work, I was working as a bartender in a coffee shop. The manager of the coffee shop, she's seen the paintings and she suggested we should do exhibition. And I said, at first I said no, but because I said it's just poetry, it's not real painting. I just did it for myself because I needed, to let go of what was inside. But she convinced me, and we did. And that was my first exhibition that was called Close Your Eyes and Go.
Oh, wonderful. Thanks for sharing that.
And we sold everything within the first night. And I was sitting like, I couldn't believe it just happened. Yeah. And then I had 6 solo exhibitions in Poland until President of Warsaw. I won quite prestigious award in Poland, Artist of the Year. And I'm supposed to have a beautiful exhibition, a beautiful place in Warsaw, one of the most prestigious galleries probably, but the president of Warsaw, the president of Warsaw blocked the exhibition because he said he will not show nude art in gallery. And Poland is a very Catholic country, and he blocked it. Mm-hmm. So I didn't know what to do with myself in a country that is not allowing myself to exhibit. And my parents already lived in Manchester. My brother was in Manchester. So I thought, I'm just going to take a suitcase and go to UK. And that's what I did. And I quit the studies as well. I quit the studies because after 3 years, when I had those 6 solo exhibitions, which, believe me, that wasn't, I mean, it was a beautiful experience for me, but I was organizing everything myself, from, you know, things like wine to invitations, guest lists, and things like that. I was doing everything myself, very often with the help of actually my employer, the manager of the coffee shop. I had a lot of support from her. But when the school found out that I'm actually selling those paintings, where the money, it wasn't like a lot of money, and they mainly went to support myself at school, because my parents, they didn't have finances to support me, you know. So I could pay for the rent and everything else. But the school contacted me. They asked me to come to the office, and they said to me, that they don't really like my activity so much if I'm selling paintings and not giving those money to the school. And I said, why would I give the money to the school if I'm organizing everything myself, and I'm not even studying painting, I'm studying, you know, critique and promotion of art. But they said, if I want to continue, that's the deal, that I would have to either pay the money to them or include people from my year into this exhibition where no one was painting, which was that was a nonsense. And I knew that at this point, this is not a place for me, that I could literally develop any interest in painting that I had. And then obviously the exhibition was blocked as well. So I thought, I'm just going to change the country. So I did that. But when I moved to Manchester, and I was hit by the reality, new language, new city, big city, huge city, people, no friends, new culture, new mentality. And I started work, you know, in an office from 9 to 5. Everything was quite overwhelming, because I did miss the friends and people, you know, that I left behind me in Poland. And yeah, and I spent almost 10 years in the office. I only did maybe, sorry, I'm ringing. I did maybe 3 paintings during this 10 years that actually were commissioned by my employer, because he seen some painting and he asked me to create some paintings for the office. So I did that, but I did that with very much feeling like, you know, tiny. And he was actually the one that paid me double amount of money, because he could see how uncomfortable I felt by, you know, saying a price or how much I would like to charge him. So bless him, amazing guy. And then I was working, when I moved to Scotland, I was still working for them, but from home, remotely. My son was born, and when he was 1, they made this position redundant. And that's when I had to go back to painting. Yeah, that was 2013, so 7 years ago.
Do you feel, looking back, that your guides, they were with you the whole time?
They were.
When did you start, like, connecting? Was there, maybe that was in the video, see, like that amnesia? Like, I have to rewatch it, because we spoke yesterday. I don't normally put myself out there like that, but I clearly did yesterday.
That was amazing, and thank you for that, Nikki.
Thank you. But just, I don't want to take up your time, but like, when did it start to become where you couldn't deny that it wasn't just you and your thoughts, and, you know, you always questioned, so you knew that there was higher power and things out there, and guides and angels, but that it wasn't just you?
I think, see, when I divorced my husband 3 years ago, and I did have a lot of moments before, since I actually started my Academy of Fine Arts. So since I was 19, I had a lot of moments, or even people were telling me that those paintings represent something that actually exists. And there was several occasions when someone or I noticed that these paintings actually, in a weird way, are manifesting in reality. But most of the time, I would just put it to a coincidence, or I think I'm stupid, or that's impossible, this kind of stuff. One situation quite profound, but it was still at the time when I wasn't that connected, was before I actually left my husband. It was, I think, 2 years before I left him, me and another girl who was a photographer, we did amazing photo shoot of a girl from Mexico. She was an actress, therefore whatever emotion I thrown at her to represent on the picture, she would just do it amazingly. Sandra was her name. Amazing, beautiful, amazing, very feminine. And I was so happy with the photo shoot that right away I just went home and I wanted to paint her. And even during that photo shoot, when I think about it now, I never go prepared, right? I never have a plan. And even to that photo shoot, I went unprepared, and Sandra was one of 3 girls that we've been shooting that day. But when it came to Sandra, I, for some reason, asked her, Sandra, can you sit in a praying position for me? Like on my knees. And she did. And then she looked into camera, and I was so taken by this picture that I started using this image to create a painting first, and it was amazing. I felt so connected, and suddenly, bam, stop. I finished the face, I did the hair, had the hands, but the rest was unknown, and I just couldn't move forward. I just couldn't, and I thought, okay, sometimes it happens, not often, but sometimes a situation like that would happen, and then I know I need to leave the painting, and when the time is right, I will finish that. And just remind me to give you an example of another painting. So I did that. I left it for 2 years, and just before I left my husband, I was finishing a collection called Iconic Women collection, and that was 9 women. I painted 9 women that throughout my life inspired me in many different ways, and one of them was Mary Magdalene, because without specific reason, I always felt very connected to her. Even when I was 16 in Poland, when you were 16, you go to the church, there's a special ceremony that you choose a third name. And I picked Magdalene because I wanted to honor her for whatever reason. And I obviously wanted to paint her, but when I was looking for some references of Mary Magdalene on the internet, the only thing I could find were obviously some actresses that played Mary Magdalene. And even though I love Monica Bellucci, I just couldn't click with Monica Bellucci as a Mary Magdalene. So I start searching again, and suddenly I see this woman in a red turban as a Mary Magdalene, sitting point to point, exactly same position with the same angle on her head as the girl that I shot to, the photo shoot that we took of Sandra. It was like exact match. And I remember then, I just felt this presence of Jesus, like his happiness. And I just remember sitting in the shed saying, you wanted me to wait 2 years so I could use this painting to paint your Magdalene for you. And I was like, you did it. You did, and that was the first time when I actually felt, that was done for a reason. That was definitely done for a reason. So that something was happening. But listen, when divorce is very extreme and not nice experience for most people who decide to separate. And yeah, emotionally, I just wasn't there, and I was in a place that I would never ever believe that someone from the other realm may want to speak to me or support me. No. And then, as I said in a video, when I moved here to this house, I'm so grateful for this house. I don't even know how I found it. It was late evening. It was October. It was raining. It was dark. And I just came into this house and I said, I'm buying it. This is it. And I didn't realize there's a country park. I have deers coming to my garden, foxes, squirrels, animals. I didn't know that this house is on a hill called Foxy Hill, and I found so much peace here. And I start walking, to this country park with my dogs, and that's when it started. And don't get me wrong, the first time it started, we need you back, was like, no, definitely not. But it was just very kind of, they didn't push, they didn't put too much on me, but initially it was almost like someone was putting thoughts in my head. Someone was planting thoughts in my head. And for real, like real, it started a year ago when I could take a piece of paper and I start writing down all the information for myself or my closest one. And I would just send a message to my friend. I have a message, I have a download for you. Should I send a message or should I delete it? You know, what to say to them. So, but it was still, I would say, not too serious. I was having fun with that, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
But it wasn't that serious. But that serious it became those 2 months ago. Seriousness. They said, this is the time now, we need to work, you know. So
who was it that that said we need you back? You might have said it before, but for some reason I'm not recalling.
That was just a message, we need you back. And then the first contact that I tried to do with this different realm was with angels, because I met a friend, Debra, who was very connected to angels, and she wrote a book about angels, how to communicate with them. So the first point of contact for me was to try to, you know, kind of get in touch with the angels, you know. But the voice that I heard in the woods, when I was walking in the woods, I don't know, but I just heard, we need you back on your spiritual path. Maybe I even thought maybe that was my grandmother, or I don't know, I can't remember, literally I can't remember, but it was a very clear, we need you back now.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nikki. I just wanted to show maybe one painting that just came to my head, because it was exactly the same situation like with Mary Magdalene. That was a painting that is supposed to be a self-portrait. Well, you're gonna see, you're gonna laugh, because I wanted to paint myself as a princess warrior, but hey ho. But anyway, I started this portrait and I couldn't finish again. It was just a face, but with no background. And I left it. And then I was performing a session on a client, QHHT, and what happened, I didn't even manage to finish the script, and she actually went into channeling, and she started channeling Cryon and some other beings, but it was such a huge shock for me, because that was one of the first actually sessions that I performed, that I was holding the questions she gave me, and I hear that an entity is speaking through her, and I wanted to say, excuse me, could I ask questions? And I hear, let her speak. Again, very, you know, serious voice. Oh, okay, so I said, fine. And what happened, I just let her speak, or let him speak, let the being speak. And suddenly he says, now, would you like to know a little bit more about yourself? And that freaked me out a little bit. But out of respect, I said, if that's your intention, you know, of course. And he told me about my Lemurian past. And at that time, I knew nothing about that. Nothing, zero. So, so that happened. But prior to this session, this painting that was standing literally next to my wardrobe started kind of, you know, falling out, like he was reminding himself, it's time. And I put it on my easel. And that was a day when I was just so lazy, and I didn't even want to take all those, you know, tubes with paint and then wash the brushes. And I thought, what can I do with it? What does it want me to do with it? And I see there is a golden marker lying on the easel. And I took a, how do you call it, this straight thing to draw lines.
A ruler?
A ruler?
Yes. So I took that, a big one, and I started drawing lines on it, very intuitive lines on it. I'll show you. That was this.
It's beautiful.
So I had no idea what it is, but when I've been told about this past, I started doing research. What does it actually mean? I didn't have a clue that that was the Atlantis. I had zero clue. And when I started doing the research, I came across a symbol made out of golden lines, that when I put this next to each other, it's almost a match. So how could I know that before even knowing that I had some past in Lemuria, and draw the symbol on a painting, this is the divine work that works through you. These are the things that you are just unable to make up. Like the messages I've been getting in Spanish. I don't speak Spanish, I don't speak Italian, but I'm getting messages in Spanish that I have to translate in a Google Translate. I can't make that up. So sometimes it's fun.
You did have a discussion about the horns before and what the significance was. I don't think that you talked to us about what the significance of the colors were. Now, you mentioned a number 7 somewhere.
Yes, here. Yes, they recently explained to me that colors are not accidental either. Mm-hmm. They explained to me that whenever they made me to use blue and green, these are actually the chakras that either need healing or I will be using in my future. So green and blue is the throat chakra, green is the heart chakra. They also explained to me different colors of halos, because I was initially doing only gold halos, but then I just felt this urge to do blue halos again and red halos. And red halos became very, very important, and they've been explaining to me that with the work they have in mind for me, I'm gonna have to be really properly grounded, which is the root chakra, in order to proceed with work or my mission or whatever. And that's when the halo starts to come up and be very, very prominent as well. See, the thing about colors is, when I was living in my previous home with my husband, that was a place where I'm not like very good with interior design or anything like that, but I always had some kind of taste. But with this place where we've been living together, I never had any idea what colors I would like to have on a wall, nothing. This house was literally like blunt. And I remember when I moved to this house, I knew this color will be green, this color will be red, this will be purple, and I just knew everywhere, how to put everywhere. And when they've been teaching me the mirror games, when they've been explaining to me your house is mimicking you, your city is mimicking you, your country is mimicking you, this is why you will need to relocate, because you are changing now. You are transforming, so you will have to relocate, so you're going to have to change the mirrors. And they literally showed me each room after each room. Look which chakra was supported by this room. Look which chakra was supported by this room. Look what's going on here. Look what you have on the wall. Look what kind of information, patterns, everything. They've been showing me the smallest details everywhere that are part of me, and it's a mirror of me, of my personality. They showed me how to find the past written down around you, in your house, in your reality, that is, already in this field, in these surroundings, but it's kind of a reminder of the past or potential future that you can create, or just you, as they said, you can literally receive an information in a leaflet that comes through your door. But sometimes I have days when they are constantly with me and they're showing me this, that, you can expect this, that already happened, and they're just showing me as like a map of myself, of myself, like my past, my present, my future, my past lives, my personality, just the essence of me is everywhere. The essence of you guys is everywhere around you. They said to me, Dom, what did you see through the window when you've been still living in this previous house? When you looked out the window, through the window in your living room? I said, I didn't see anything, because there was an estate made out of very close located houses. I didn't have any perspective, any view. And they said, go to your living room now and look through the window. What do you see? And I see everything, because I'm on top of the hill and I can see loads of land, and see why in this place, specifically in this house, your vision broaden up, why you have expanded your vision, your knowing, your wisdom. This, look through the window, and this is the perspective you see. They've been, showing me loads of fascinating things. Sometimes funny, sometimes I would say, oh, wow, but it's what's around every one of us, It's like I never been interested in Feng Shui, or I once received a book about Feng Shui, but never went through that.
Mm-hmm.
But when they gave me better understanding why I feel blocked with certain things in, for example, working on my business, or I don't know, working more on my well-being, like healthy lifestyle, they've been showing me where are the blockages. And literally everything, like a chair standing in the middle of a room and being almost like an obstacle, is the blockage that is representing something that is blocked within you. And that's what Feng Shui is about relocating everything. And I'm not sure if it's very, very similar to Feng Shui, because as I said, I have zero knowledge about Feng Shui, but they've been showing me how each room can be changed so we can remove some blockages within.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned when we had our first call about the green and the blue relating to the heart and the throat chakra respectively. I thought that was the association, but I didn't want to just assume it was and needed to hear it from you. So I'm seeing this image completely differently than I saw it the first time. Yes, I did have a reaction to it. It wasn't something that that brought up judgment, etc. My reaction was concern, actually, like I mentioned before, about how it would be perceived.
Yes.
And now
why I was completely okay with that.
Yeah. And so I feel so much better about you having explained the background behind the horns, the colors, the halo, the number 7, etc. So, it would be great to have the artist explain their art to us. But then there's also a matter of us experiencing it for ourselves, isn't it?
Yes, and you said it exactly how I would probably answer this question. See, during the shows that we've been organizing, it's very common for people to kind of ask the artist, and it's nice, don't get me wrong, can you please tell me a little bit more about this painting? And it's fine. I don't mind sharing. However, I prefer if someone will stand in front of the painting and find its own story in it, whether it moves the person or not, whether it kind of triggers some emotions or not. I created my story, and you can now find your own story within it. And that's how people engage with paintings, and then they decide to buy the paintings to have it on a wall. What I've been taught, that every painting, every creation is a vibration. Especially if you create in this kind of way, because obviously, and this is now non-judgmental, there are artists who create art that will be very like hyper realistic, or they like to think a lot and make the right decisions. But I believe when you allow this divine element in a creation, there's this 100% trust, because there is no thinking. This actually painting is like vibration creation on your wall that actually has this divine element in it. And when I had this one-to-one session with Marina, when I was just trying to be the detective and figure out what's going on with those paintings, what they are creating my future, Marina, help me. She said, you are basically creating those vibrations that becomes the holograms to your own reality. And I asked her, so knowing what kind of vibration the painting has, like for example, the chosen one, can it create exactly the same outcome for someone who will acquire this kind of painting? And she said yes, if he believes 100%. That creation will create a hologram for this other person as well.
But you were given the understanding that these are looking back at you. Yes? You happen to, yeah, beautiful.
Yes, they have their own life, literally. There's something about them now, and I'm so grateful, because when I became so frustrated with my paintings, when what was really happening, they've been just pushing me towards this spiritual path, I became so frustrated that I stopped seeing any value in them. I literally thought, what, honestly, just fuck off, and I just don't want to have anything to do with you anymore, because that hurt me so much, because creation was everything to me. To create a painting, to be in this creative process, that was that was and is unbelievable experience. And I don't know who I was frustrated most with myself, with the paintings, with the galleries that didn't do their job properly. But it was painful because I was given 100% of myself, when I was going into this creative process. And the level of the disappointment, and I felt I let my son down, that maybe even though I thought I was so creative, I felt so good creating them, but maybe I did something wrong and I let my son down because now I can't support him, and that was a lot of very heavy emotions. And I was very much in a victim mode, and I was blaming everyone and outside me, including the paintings, to a point that I didn't see any value in them, and I just, betrayed them in a way. But it was amazing when when last month they all came back home. I didn't see them for a very long time, and I look at them from a completely different perspective. Like, my babies are home, and I see them in a completely different way now, and I see them as a divine work as well now, that we made this painting kind of in a partnership, the studio of eternity. And I had to go through this, I had to learn this lesson. I had to go through this. I see. Okay. Jessica is asking about number 7. I believe this is just a code that should basically penetrate your consciousness. You will find out at the right time the right meaning for yourself. I would say codes, because there's more in other paintings, and I believe these are just the codes that should penetrate, and you will eventually find your own meaning to it.
Dominika, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for allowing me to have this first webinar. Thank you for watching the videos in first place, Joe. Massive gratitude to you for everything, and to every one of you who came, and I hope to see you and stay in touch with you guys. And I'm open to whatever the future may bring, and I'm grateful to my guides. I know I could feel them behind me. They didn't interrupt, but maybe eventually at some point they will come through. I don't know, it's a process, we will not rush, but I'm so grateful. Thank you so much. You have a blessed evening, guys.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Thank you. See you next time. Bye-bye.
See you.